In today's video, we're going to be just looking at some replays of a team I built in PU to be able to use Grafaiai with Prankster, and Prankster Copycat specifically. I think that Grafaiai is sort of a forgotten Pokemon in terms of the Prankster Copycat, because you think of Prankster Copycat, I think at least a lot of people think of Riolu and Prankster High Jump Kick in Little Cup. But now we actually have a fully evolved Pokemon that can make use of this ability, and it's really cool. But Grafaiai is all the way down in PU, ZU level tiers, and it's actually decently strong, and it can really make use of the Copycat ability in a number of situations. So I wanted to build this team, and I just threw together a bunch of good Pokemon on the team in PU. And it actually, this team works out surprisingly well, considering that this isn't my main tier or anything. So this Grafaiai's item is Silk Scarf to boost his double-edged damage. Now Grafaiai is not the bulkiest Pokemon, but because we're going to be using Copycat, we don't actually have to invest in any speed. And Grafaiai is really fast anyway, so even when you don't invest into speed and you just dump all of it into your HP, you can actually outspeed a lot of things in the tier naturally. Having Prankster also lets you get Prankster Swords Dance off, and then your opponent goes for a move, potentially. And if you want to steal that move, then you can use Prankster the following turn. And you can play around that way and steal your opponent's moves. For example, Sticky Web is a good example. You can get Sticky Web up with your Grafaiai, or Spikes, or whatever you want to get up. Now, even though this was meant to be a Grafaiai team, it actually a lot of times ends up being a Scrafty video, because Scrafty is just really good. Now obviously right there, that's not the best example of a well-played Scrafty or anything like that. Here I'm stealing the Grafaiai's, with Grafaiai I'm stealing the Cacturn's Toxic Spikes, which is really cool. I only get one layer up, of course, because they're going to go for Spiky Shield, but we actually take out the Cacturn too, so I'm okay with that trade. But yeah, so even though that wasn't the best played Scrafty in this video, most of these replays are going to end up with the Scrafty at +2 or +3 against my opponent's team, which is all dead. So this Scrafty is actually really scary in this tier, and I feel like maybe it's almost broken, but maybe it's just what I was facing on the ladder. Mudsdale, really powerful Pokemon. Of course, everybody knows what Mudsdale does, and it really rounds off this team nicely. Not only is Body Press Earthquake fantastic on it, but the Roar is super invaluable. You want to just get guys out of there as quickly as possible when they set up, including opposing Scrafties, right? Because Scrafty's such an annoying Pokemon. Now, I have seen some Mudsdale be running Stone Edge, and my Mudsdale is not, because I think you have to have Roar on Mudsdale to make it good. And I also wanted Stealth Rock on this particular Mudsdale. My Goodra here is just running whatever they had in the team builder for 4 attacks Goodra with heavy duty boots. So that's Flamethrower, Sludge Bomb, Draco Meteor, and Knockoff. And I do like the Knockoff as a secondary option for Goodra, just so you can knock off special attackers, things that might not want to stay in on your Scrafty, but are willing to stay in on your Goodra, and then you can cripple them that way. But I think Dragon Tail would also be a decent last move for the Goodra there, just because getting a second phaser on this team is not a bad option. Now the goal of this team at the end of the day is to just try to, and see, there's an example, Articuno gets knocked off by the Goodra, and obviously it didn't really matter there in that particular instance, because I could have gone for Draco Meteor, but that's just an example of where knockoff is nice. This game is funny. I'm going to come back to talking about the team, but we're going to talk about this game first. You're never going to guess how this game is going to go. So Show Smash Smeargle, it's a meme set, but it is known to happen. However, it's not Population Bomb, it's Water Shuriken, and potentially Loaded Dice. I'm assuming that's what it is, just because they end up getting 4 hits. I was not expecting that. crazy set. However, even though my Mudsdale has been brought down pretty low, it's actually going to completely obliterate my opponent because they don't really have anything for this Mudsdale. Ice-Cube's gonna come in, but I don't care about it. For some reason they go for Snowscape. I don't know what they're trying to do there. But that's fine. Here I go for Flamethrower, because not only does that deal with Ice Cube and Venusaur, but it also would deal with Sand Slash. Here I go for Knockoff, just because I figured they would go Minior. They didn't go Minior, they went into Venusaur, which is fine with me. Then they went for Synthesis. Obviously this is the bottom of the ladder. I started off, I don't know if this was fresh on this alt, but this was definitely a low ladder start. And then we work our way up to the high 1300s by the end of this video. So, but this guy is just really funny. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about this video. The Mudsdale is going to put in all the work against this guy because he just continuously lets the Mudsdale do work. Let's continue talking about Mudsdale. Yes, so Stone Edge, Mudsdale, seen a lot on ladder. I've dodged a lot of Stone Edges with my Rotom, and you'll see that in this video. And I do think that having Stone Edge for Rotom and, you know, maybe Articuno, things like that, is definitely valid. But I did need a Stealth Rocker for this team, and I don't think you should ever have Mudsdale without Roar. But that's my personal opinion. Of course, Assault Vest Mudsdale is a thing, and maybe on certain team builds that would be fine. But this team build definitely needs a phaser. I do find the Mudsdale pairs really well with Goodra. Obviously, you have the ice weakness there, but having one physical wall and one special wall is really nice. And the whole point of this team is to break with the Mudsdale, with the Rotom to a certain extent, and then with Goodra, so that one of your sweepers can put in work. And then you have Bruxish, which sometimes functions as a late game sweeper, but sometimes actually functions as an early game sweeper. And as you can see in this instance, because I was able to get rid of the Weezing with my Bruxish, my opponent has no real physical answer. And because they have no real physical answer, my Scrafty is now freed up. The only thing that was stopping my Scrafty at all would have been a Haze Weezing. But now my Scrafty really doesn't care. Let's see what else we want to talk about. So the Grafaiai is going to get sacked a lot in this video. And it might just sort of look like, and here we go. Scrafty is now completely freed up. It may look like Grafaiai is just the featured bad mon, and then it's going to get sacked right away. But it's actually more than just that, because it has the copycat, so it can save me from guys that are +2. PU has a lot of shell smashing, you know, things like Minior, which you can't always beat if they're Earthquake and Acrobatics. Then it's gonna be a lot harder to beat it with the copycat. But if they have Stone Edge or Rock Slide or something like that, then you can definitely beat them if they are in their shields down form. And so Grafaiai is definitely going to get sacked a lot, but I do think that it definitely enables the Scrafty in cleaning up a lot of guys early on, or the Bruxish depending. And it has that really nice speed tier, like I said before, where you don't have to invest at all. And so it'll actually be able to take at least a hit, usually, unless it's super effective. It is Terra Flying on this build, just so that it can take a ground move, theoretically, but I never actually ended up Terraing my Grafaiai at all. It doesn't need Terra to function, which is really nice, because a lot of the times when you want to feature a Pokemon, you usually end up having that mon be a Terra Hog, but this Grafaiai does not need Terra at all. Belly Bolt, really good defensive Pokemon, but against Shedskin Scrafty, not really. As you can see here, it is just allowing my Scrafty to get a free setup. So not the strongest option there. Also, I'm not a fan of this particular opponent's set. They're using Belly Bolt with Static and Toxic. I think they should be Electromorphosis and Toxic. That's my personal opinion. because if I'm poisoned, then I don't need the static as well, right? You should pick one or the other. If they had been electromorphosis there, then they could have maybe gone for a parabolic charge after I'd hit them. Let's see, Lycanroc lead. Bruxis is a decent lead into that. A lot of times they won't even want to sucker punch you just because they're afraid of the dazzling. Hoopa is funny because a lot of times the guys, they go for the trick on Hoopa because they think that I'm gonna go into Goodra. I'm just trying to sack the Grafaiai. I realized actually after that I should not sack the Grafaiai. Funnily enough here, because I knocked off their loaded dice, they only get 2 hits, which is a bit unfortunate, and so I'm not going to take the bullet seed as well as I could have. But again, because I knocked off the loaded dice, I end up taking it, and so we're good. But the reason I didn't sack the Grafaiai there is because I realized, wait a second, I need that copycat just in case this Torterra does get out of hand, and I was going to get outsped the following turn. So I made the pivot, and the pivot worked out anyway, so I didn't need the copycat. Here I'm choice Scarfed now, which means I could go for the, well, I could go for a double edge, but that does allow Mewmore to come in. So here I decided to start setting up with Scrafty, and my opponent does make a good play there, and they go out hard into Mewmore. Now if I were bulk up Scrafty, I'm pretty sure I would beat Mewmore 1v1. This actually ends up being a really awkward end game because I don't want to let them get into their shields down because then they will get the speed boost. And so because I'm able to continuously set up on them, I prevent that. And here they just forfeit because they know they'll lose to Bruxish. More Mewmore on the ladder. This 2 cannon is annoying at the beginning. I was not expecting this particular set. Tailwind plus Boom Burst Throat Spray is really annoying. We want to get up to Stealth Rock. And Goodra did not eat, by the way. Holy cow. That did not eat. Bad job, Goodra, there. I want to get up the Stealth Rock just because I want to try to get chip on the Mewmore. I don't play this, I don't think, the greatest, because I want to prevent the Hitmontop from coming out and spinning. I want to prevent the Mewmore from coming out. And so I need to pose a threat to those guys, or I need to make it so that I can set up on them. Here I wasn't expecting them to be the fake out set, but I suppose that makes sense that they are. And Hitmontop is another guy that in theory just lets Scrafty set up on it. This is Technotop with triple axle though, so it is a little more threatening. So you do have to respect it because that triple axle is really strong. As you see there, it does over 50%. But we're Scrafty. We do have decent enough bulk. Even the offensive set, take it. And here, I was not expecting them to go for the Terra right away. And so I was just trying to poison them, or not poison them, because you can't poison them in this form. I was trying to get them to, I was just trying to get some chip damage, because if they're Focus Sash, I want to chip them with the Poison Jab. Since they were White Herb, if I'd gone for the knockoff, I would have done way more damage, and then I would have killed them. So a bit of misplay on my part, but I was expecting them to be Focus Sash and not White Herb. So oh well. Then I couldn't go into my Grafaiai right away because they killed me with the Earthquake, so I had to wait for them to go for Stone Edge before I was able to go out to my Grafaiai and use the Copycat. Unfortunately, we do hit. Then my opponent wants to show that they also have Copycat, and that's cool, but I have Double Edge and they die. And then the Farigiraf gets knocked off, and at that point it's GG. They don't have anything they do. So this was a Grafaiai versus Grafaiai copycat battle. So my Grafaiai was stronger because I have the Double Edge. And Double Edge is actually really strong in Grafaiai, so gotta respect it. This opponent has a really annoying team with a defensive Arbok with Dragon Tail. So if they had just gone for Glare, I wouldn't have cared because then, you know, I have Shedskin. Oh Oh, I guess I should skin on Scrafty. If they'd gone for Glare, the Grafaiai would have been annoying. I misspoke there. Here's another fun example of how the copycat can help you. So I've lost some health here, but I can get it back with the Strength Sap on the Drifloon, which is sort of fun. I probably should have saved my knockoff until after I was boosted, because then, you know, they can Strength Sap it all back. But I'm still able to do that because you know what, this is going to be like Shadow Ball and Air Slash. And as you see, they have Air Slash that KOs me. But because this is Flare Boost Drifloon and not a good set, then I'm able to outspeed it with whatever I want. This Whiscash is also really annoying. Normally you'd think they'd be dual hazards plus like Liquidation or whatever. They're Whirlpool, which is actually really problematic for my Mudsdale. Here I get up Stealth Rock just because they don't really have hazard removal outside of the Drifloon, which has been shown not to be a defog Drifloon. And so we can keep hazards up. But that does give the Whiscash more free reign to just muck around and be annoying. To get rid of the Drifloon, there's actually a really cool team on my opponent's part. It's just really annoying. They are fully special, so they KO me though with Earth Power. Now I'm just going to get rid of this. It's got to go. We can go for the side thing. See, I calc it, but I think I calced it wrong. Or that I just wasn't expecting it to be that bulky of Electros. And so I lose my Bruxish, which actually ends up being sort of annoying. I probably should have not gone for that. Because having that choice scarfed Bruxish would have been really good at this point in the battle. But it's okay. I do go for the Dragon Dance there just because I always should. But they do have the taunt and they do show it, and that's smart of them to do. I do get the Shed Skin turn 1, which is very valuable. And this is actually an interesting one. Sometimes Salazzles will lose if they're the more annoying max HP sets with the toxic sub stuff. But this one is actually a Venoshock one, so it's well invested. And the Venoshock is really cool. But because I'm not poisoned on my Rotom, they're actually not boosted. So if they had been like Nasty Plot, Sludge Bomb, I think they actually would have beaten me 1v1. But fortunately, they're more of a gimmicky set. So a really cool team on my opponent's part, really annoying, but we're able to get through it, yeah, despite my misplays. Now this game, I feel like I've seen this team multiple times. I don't know if it's an RMT or something, but with this team, you'll see a bunch. It does really well with the Sand Slash into Goodra, Salazzle, Rotom, so triple fire resist right there. But if you play well with the Goodra, you can still bait out the Sand Slash and then Flamethrower. And we'll see that dynamic with Sand Slash a number of times. Speaking of Sand Slash, let's address one of the weaknesses of this team. And one of the weaknesses of this team is that we have no hazard control on this team. We don't really have hazard control offensively either, because a lot of times what you'll see is, oh, this is hilarious. Okay, so they flinch me here, but then I can copycat and get the Iron It back on them. Very fun dynamic. So I don't have defensive hazard removal in Defog or Rapid Spin, and I don't have spikes and toxic spikes and sticky web that would force my opponent to defog either. So there's that on this team that you gotta watch out for. But I never actually really felt that pressured by hazards. Maybe that's just where the current PU metagame sits. I'm not exactly sure. Here, we're just gonna go for knockoff. A lot of Salazzles will try to stall you out by getting you to go for Draco Meteor. But because we have knockoff, we're able to actually threaten the Salazzle, because as soon as Salazzle loses its leftovers, it's no longer a threat. Here, my opponent doesn't make the greatest play. They do go for Volt Switch on the Belly Bolt, which leaves it low. I can sack my Rotom to Goodra, and now this is the beginning of the end. You never, ever, 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 ever let your Goodra be -2, unless you have Dragon Tail. And so some Goodras do have Dragon Tail and some of them don't. If you don't have Dragon Tail, that's when you're toast. So last month, Scrafty will still beat this. As we see, this is Gooey Goodra, which has its own merits compared to the What am I trying to say? Compared to the Sap Sipper, but I am Sap Sipper. I like the idea of having an immunity over just anything else. But Gooey is annoying. Funnily enough, there they go for Dragon Tail. I think that was a bad play. Because I'm able to flip turn out to avoid worrying about the Gooey. And then we go into Scrafty. And as I said before, or at least as I meant to say before, as soon as you knock off Salazzle, this particular set, it doesn't do anything. It can't beat you. Right, this isn't the same as Leech Seed Whimsicott. You can knock off Leech Seed Whimsicott and it'll still beat you. As you can see there, Salazzle, if it's more defensive, will not one-shot Scrafty. You can still knock that off and it'll still beat you because it has Leech Seed. But Salazzle, if it loses its leftovers, is basically toast. Alright, here we see another Sand Slash plus Fire type, Tatsu, which is 4 times resistant to fire, and Dock Spun. But if you play it correctly, then it doesn't beat you. Here, that play route did not miss. Miss did not matter. Dock Spun is not a strong Pokemon. And so they could have Terra Steeled their Dock Spun, and I think personally that's what they should have done. Because Terra Steel Dock Spun does beat so many sets. Of course, if I have Earthquake, that's a different matter, but you can always Wish, Protect, and Scout around that. Since I've shown Flamethrower, the likelihood of me having Earthquake is not that great. Mudsdale with Tauros is an annoying matchup just because Tauros is so strong. It can actually punch through Mudsdale and weaken it pretty easily. But fortunately, my opponent doesn't actually do anything with their bulk up there. Tatsugiri, no! Funnily enough, Tatsugiri has sort of a bad matchup in this tier because you have to deal with, am I going to go for the water move into a Goodra set? No. So am I going to go for the dragon move? But if you go for the dragon move, you do allow for a lot of setup, and there's sometimes fairies too. So I like Tatsugiri as a Pokemon, and I do think it's a decent rapid spinner, but you really have to know what you're doing. Here we throw away the Grafaiai turn 1 because I'm really stupid. We do find out that the Tauros is banded, so that's useful for me. Here, I'm gonna probably misplay my Goodra somewhat. I don't really need it for the Shaman because Shaman's not a good Pokemon. But here, for example, I go for Knockoff and the Skuntank. I could have gone for Flamethrower. I could have gone for any number of things, but I figured maybe they switch. But why would they switch when rocks are up? So that was a misplay. Rotom on Rotom Violence is always a fun time. They get to go into Tauros, which does outspeed me, and they're just going to close combat me. So another probably not great play on my part, but because they're locked in, I can go for Dragon Dance up. Now, the Rotom has been shown to be heavy duty boots, so we know we don't have to worry about Trick here. And at this point, I'm +1/+2. I know they're going to have banded Flare Blitz. Actually, they have banded Earthquake, which is even worse. But because of that, we're not going to go for another Dragon Dance because I wasn't at full health. And I wanted to make sure I could live that. And if I hadn't gone for... if I'd gone for Dragon Dance, not Drain Punch is what I meant to say, then I would not have lived that. But fortunately, from full health, we're good. Here we Drain Punch because we don't care about Hoopa coming in. Like, yeah, you got the Predict, bro. But it doesn't actually help you because I have leftovers. I'm getting health back every turn, and I'm going to outspeed Scarf Hoopa. So that's not a problem. And I'm still +1 attack. +2 speed, outspeeds Zemon's Choice Scarf Hoopa, like I said. And at this point, it's basically a game. And it's this kind of dynamic that I think makes Scrafty really broken. Like, what was my opponent supposed to do? You have banded Tauros. It's putting in all the work against my team. But because you're locked in, I can just go for the Terra Poison. I've seen the Terra Fairy as well. I think we have a replay with that. I don't think that's as good as Terra Poison. But what are you supposed to do? I get the +1, I get the +2 on your switch out, and now you lose. Here, Persian's obviously going to taunt, so we're just going to go for the Body Press instead of getting up Stealth Rock. Now we'll Earthquake the Tatsugiri. Here is where we talk about that weird dynamic where I know he's not going to go for the water move. I have a Goodra. Duh. And so I can just tank that and get rid of it, because I do think it's sort of an annoying Pokemon to play around with. Then we're going to switch out because obviously they're going to go into the Magneton. Here I go for Volt Switch. This guy likes to double a lot. So like, ooh, you dropped my special attack with the Arcanine. Cool. I switch out there hard because I don't want to take a close combat. but they show that they don't actually have close combat, or at least they don't have the volition to go for close combat. I do want to get my stealth rock up now that we've gotten rid of the Tatsugiri. This obviously was a bit of a misplay, but I figured they'd just take me out with their Arcanine instead of going Mudsdale. Here we actually see the Mudsdale with the Stone Edge miss. I don't like Mudsdale with Stone Edge for that very reason, but obviously in this instance, if they had hit, it would have been valuable for my opponent. They are able to go into their Arcanine though and troll around a little bit. Arcanine with extreme speed is annoying. Fortunately here, we're able to almost take them out. I would have thought that would have KO'd them, but it does not. This is another funny example of copycat, but it actually comes back to bite me. I wanted to go for Volt Switch there to try to avoid a Flare Blitz or Will-O-Wisp or Morning Sun, but actually go hard Mudsdale, which makes a lot of sense, and so I don't actually get a hit off. Here they try to scout out, see what I'm going to do. If I'd gone for Psyfangs, obviously they could have gone into Persian or Magneton. I'm not going to make that misplay, so we're just going to go with the Scarf Wave Crash. Now, Grafaiai is not doing too much in this game against Mudsdale and against Magneton, and even to a lesser extent Persian, because you can't copycat Persian, right? So we sort of just stack it there. This is not a good game for Grafaiai. This Rotom is actually going to chew this Mach Punch, which is sort of depressing for Girder, because you usually think of Girder as being really strong in the lower tiers. Obviously, it's not an OU Pokemon, but it is decently strong. But it actually lives that Mach Punch decently, so that's cool. And here we go for Psyfangs. I probably should have gone for Wave Crash here. We're going to save that for later. And here, we're going to go for Flamethrower, saying, hey, don't go Magneton. And then we're going to drop a Draco. And that will take off most of Mudsdale's health. Here I also make some more misplays. I could have gone into Bruxish, but I wanted to save its health because I was thinking maybe I'll live in a Mach Punch at that range too. And I don't want them to sack their Mudsdale and then go and Mach Punch me, and then I don't have my Scarf guy for the Magneton. But because I make those series of misplays, I actually end up losing my Rotom, which would have dealt with the Magneton anyway. So I probably should have just gone into my Bruxish. Hilariously, because my opponent goes for Steel Beam there, which they did not need to do, they actually end up dying there. I guess they were thinking they could finish me off with Girder, but because I'm the Terra Poison on Scrafty, I'm able to come away with another W. So we definitely fumbled the end game there, but I think we were fine as long as we kept the Scrafty. But like I said, I had the Rotom Heat. I didn't need my Scarf Bruxish to deal with the Magneton, so I should have always gone into that on Mudsdale and then forced the issue with the Girder. Alright, here's another game with a Fire type and a Dragon type to help the Sandslash. This is a fun little Destiny Bond outplay. Not saying I'm special for doing this, anybody could do that, but I did do it, and I want to let you know that I can, scout out and outplay a Destiny Bond. I'm gonna let my Mudsdale get burned here. It isn't really that big of a deal, but I do want to get Stealth Rock up. That may pressure the Altaria if they have Defog to defog away these spikes, as they are just gonna Roar spam, which I guess makes a lot of sense if you're gonna spam spikes, but it's not really that strong of a strategy. I do get a Draco Meteor miss there, which is actually beneficial to me because it lets me get rid of the Sandslash. So now the only form of hazard removal my opponent could have is if they have Defog. Here we're always going to go hard into Mudsdale on Scrafty because we cannot let that set up, and so we'll sack the Mudsdale every time to get rid of the Scrafty. Here they go back into Altaria. I'm just going to stay in because I figure they're going to Roar anyway. Funnily enough here, you'll see that Copycat does not work on Roar, which if I were better, I would have remembered. And so I just thought it would be funny to get a Prankster Roar off, but does not work that way. That's okay, because we can go for Double Edge and take them out there. And like I said, this Double Edge is really strong. Like, that's not too shabby. Of course, here I cannot go for Copycat because they're Dark type, but we'll just sack the Mudsdale. And a +1 speed they still aren't outspeeding my Bruxish. So fortunately, Scrafty does not have priority. Otherwise, it would be a lot bigger of a problem. They actually end up Terra Fairying there, which I did mention earlier in the video. I don't think it's as good as Terra Poison, because here I get to go for my own Dragon Dance. I will resist all of their moves they could go for, except for I guess Knockoff, but they're not going to go for Knockoff hard into a Scrafty. And they keep on winning these speed ties, but now I'm +2 speed and +2 attack, and now the game is over because they really can't do anything. So the best thing they could do here is go for Belly Bolt. But as we've mentioned before, Belly Bolt just gives Scrafty free setup because I have Shed Skin. So they're going for Discharge, and if they had gotten lucky here, then things would have gone differently. This one, funnily enough, is Discharge plus Charge, plus Electromorphosis, right? You would think that one would be the time to run the Discharge plus Toxic, but apparently they wanted Electromorphosis, which does help them in that instance, because then they do way more damage with the electric move, and they end up taking out the Scrafty. But if they'd gotten luckier with their discharges, they could have gotten, you know, full pairs, and then they could have gotten the no Shed Skin. But at that point, now we're talking about hacks in my opponent's favor to try to save the game. But in normal interaction, the Scrafty is going to beat the Belly Bolt with Shed Skin, and then you just get free setup on it. I do know that Terra Blast Fairy Belly Bolt is a thing, so you can write that in the comments section. Terra Blast Fairy is a thing, and then yes, of course, you would lose that interaction, but not if you Terra Poison. Alright, this is an annoying team, because it's a Sticky Web team. I can Swords Dance, like I said, and now I get the Prankster Copycat Sticky Web. I'm well aware that that really does not matter into my opponent's team when they have the Colossal and I have nothing to stop the Colossal. If I had a Ghost type on this team, that would be different. But I just wanted up there to force my opponent into needing to do that. This is obviously not the greatest play that I've ever made. I should have always gone into Mudstale there instead of sacking my Scarf Bruxish, especially because it was nice into things like Toxtricity. But I wasn't taking this game too seriously, to be honest. Here they forced me out, and that was a good play on their part because I'm not Earthquake, and that is going to allow them to get the Rapid Spin off. Here we're just going to go for Knockoff, just to get rid of their item. Because I can always get Stealth Rock back up. And in fact, I do so right here. And then I go for Earthquake in case they want to Rapid Spin again, and that takes them out. I could have obviously gone... What am I trying to say? I could have gone for Earthquake and just killed them right there, but I wanted Stealth Rock up in case, you know, like Sash, Toxtricity or something like that. Cramorant is another Pokemon that gives Scrafty free setup. So I leave them at full health. They're not going to paralyze me. I just have to keep myself out of range of the chip, and at +3 attack, I'm able to one-shot them. They go Colossal. They don't even try to Terra Ghost or anything like that. And if they had it, then maybe that could have been a different story. But as it is, going Colossal there is just a free health pack. Even if you got the Flame Body, which is a chance-based event, I can also get the Shed Skin, which is another chance-based event. And then here, because I knocked them off, they don't have the loaded dice, and I'm able to take them out. But even if they hadn't, I could have gone into my Terrace... Oh no, I'm not Terra Steel anymore. I could have gone into Rotom or Goodra, and things maybe would have gotten a little bit scary there in the end game. But you know, when you lose your loaded dice, that's what happens. Going for Bullet Seed there, obviously. I think, were they trying to predict Rotom? I'm not sure why they went for Bullet Seed there, because I was obviously Terra Poison. I don't like how this opponent's team looks. You know, sometimes you just look at a team and you think it looks ugly, and that's definitely what I was getting from my opponent's team here. Any team with Uxie is automatically going to look ugly because Uxie is sort of an ugly Pokemon. But, you know, that's just how it is. Here, Uxie isn't really that scary to me. You know, they don't have Dazzling Gleam, and I don't think they're going to run Focus Blast, so I can just set up on it with Scrafty. We get off and knock off on the Mudstale so they don't have Recover anymore. But we are going to switch out. We do want to save that for later on, as we get another dodge with the Stone Edge. I keep on not expecting Stone Edge Mudstales just because I obviously am not running it myself. But I guess we don't need to predict it if I'm going to keep getting lucky like that. Here we're just going to crunch. That does allow them to go their Scrafty, but I obviously have my game plan in place for that, which is going to the Mudstale and rowing them out. Here, I think they should have always gone for knockoff or something like that. But, you know, here, 289 speed versus 284. I think, personally, you should always be running max speed Timid Tatsugiri. But that's just me. But I figure, hey, you go for the Drink a Meteor, take me out. I go into my Bruxish and I Scyfangs. Or, and at least I force you out, right? And then if you go into your Uxie, then I can go and start Dragon Dancing up with Scrafty. You go into your own Scrafty, I can obviously go back into my Mudstale and roar you out and play that game over and over again. So I'm just trying to get into a more favorable position. But the Goodra outspeeding there, was not expecting it, to be honest. Alright, and one final game, because like I said, I built this team trying to get Grafaiai to do something, and hitherto, Grafaiai has not done that much. But in this game, Grafaiai will do much, and you will see it starting now. So as we've seen before, if Goodra has Dragon Tail, that's a problem. But because I was able to get the Sword Stance up and they missed, suddenly that problem is now their problem, because I just 2 KO'd the Steel type. Which is really embarrassing if you are the Sandslash, if we're being completely honest. And that was the game. So just off of one Dragon Tail miss, my opponent's entire team would have gotten one shot. I don't know about Belly Bolt, if we're being honest. If I were Terra Normal, almost certainly. But Sandslash getting 2 shot by Double Edge is embarrassing. They could have gone for Fake Out with their Ambipom and then switched out and then gone into some other guys. But at that point, if you're having to play that way, you're probably going to lose the game to Scrafty or Bruxish or anything like that. But yeah. That's why we're running Double Edge on this, not Gunk Shot. Gunk Shot, of course, is not going to make the recoil. But I don't care about recoil. I'm just trying to get as many KOs as possible. And Double Edge will get me that a lot more reliably, and it can hit Steel types, which Gunk Shot cannot do. And I have knockoff for the Ghost types, so I do not care about those. So that's the one Grafaiai game, and I think this is actually not that bad of a set. Maybe Scrafty is broken, and will steal most of the KOs, but this Grafaiai, not too bad. But that'll be it for today's video, and I'll catch you guys next time.